everybody. Welcome back to boomxbeautybeat. You won't believe who I have here. Yes, I do. I've got Shirley Weir. She is I don't know, I want to say authority on menopause. You become an authority. You have so many things going on, but one is just unbelievable. You run menopausechicks.com. You have an online Facebook presence that is just, it's massive. Okay, it's like 26,000 large plus women in perimenopause and menopause, and you've been on like everything. We're talking, Today's Show, the National, TED Talks, just you name it. I couldn't have anybody who's going to give us the goods on menopause more than Shirley Weir. And she has a team of experts that work with her and enable us all to get the information that we need, for our issues or things, or menopause things. So welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks
Shirley.
for having me.
And I did not mention yet, because it's just a mouthful, you also have a book out called Mokitas. I had to look up what that meant.
Oh, good. I'm glad you looked it up.
What is that word? And it stuck with me, elephant in the room, but you might have a little more elaborate way to explain that.
Yeah, it does mean elephant in the room. It's a word from Papua New Guinea, which means the truth we all know, but choose not to speak of. And so, there are lots of Mokitas in this world. One of them happens to be perimenopause and menopause, but money, sex, religion. There's lots of things that kind of get swept under the carpet, or aren't just talked about in an open educational way. And so I have chosen to do a deep dive on perimenopause and menopause.
That is so amazing. Now, have you traveled there? Is that where you got the word from? It's fascinating.
No, it just found me. And, I found it through something completely unrelated. But what really stuck with me is that there's a tribe called the Kavila tribe in Papua New Guinea that measures their health by how many Mokitas they have. And so if we translate that here in North America, we're actually saying we can be healthier if we talk more about these things rather than sweep them under the carpet.
Yeah. It's like communication in general. Just get everything out there, especially things like this, because
knowledge is power.
So my girlfriends who I have that are going through menopause right now. Okay, so I teach makeup. Well, I was a makeup artist. I got injured, and so I can't physically do it anymore, but I've been doing a lot of Zooms to help them. And they're going through hot flashes when we're on the Zoom together, and I always have them have a fan nearby, like one of those hand fans, because we all know, and you can just see their face starts to shine within about 30 seconds. It's full out glossy, and it's not a fun thing to go through. I can just see it. Their face kind of turns a beet color, and they just sort of get really hot. And I myself have started that journey with my naturopath, and I started with the progesterone creams. But we're going to get into all that. I don't want to get ahead of myself.
Okay.
Let's back up to you, because you started out in your early 40s. You went to the doctor, and some of them are phenomenal, some of them are kind of grumpy, depends who you get. But asking a question like that, it feels nervous doing something like that. How did you approach it? Were you nervous at all, or felt like you were going to get a good answer?
I didn't feel nervous at all. I was maybe more naive than nervous. So my sister is 10 and a half years older than I am. Yeah. So I had the benefit of knowing about her journey, although it's very, very different from mine. I write about her story in the first chapter of Mokita. She reached menopause at age 36. Because she's a cancer survivor, and we believe that her radiation treatments as a child may have killed a lot of her eggs, and so that shortened her menstruation years. For me, didn't have that experience at all, but I did go to my doctor first and mentioned the word menopause, and ended up being quite disappointed. I thought it was going to be this amazing chat with a woman who's 10 years older than I am, who I absolutely adore. You know, I don't go to the doctor often, but she did deliver both my children. And so it was like, oh, hey, I'm going to go and have this conversation, and I'm going to walk out of here feeling empowered so that I can like get on with the rest of my 40s. And she only was able to offer me what was in her toolkit. And this is a very important, I think, lesson for your viewers and your listeners, is that we can't keep going to the hardware store to get milk. We keep going to our doctors. Our doctors don't learn hormone balance in medical school. It's not their fault. Keep your family doctor. Try to minimize the amount of disappointment that you're going to have if you go try to have a conversation with them, and think about it. I mean, it's under 7 minutes that you're in your doctor's office. Like, it's there. This is a conversation that requires, I mean, for me, I've been probably researching it for over 10 years. Menopause chicks just turned 8. It takes and I learn something new every day. So there's a lot of research. There's a lot of effort and work that's required to be proactive with your own health. But to back up to my doctor's office, I mean, she gave me what she had in her toolkit, which was the options of going on the pill, sleep medication, or an antidepressant. And I was, quite shocked and surprised, because none of those things really resonated for me.
Right.
I was wanting to learn about hormone balance. I was wanting to learn what I could do proactively. And to be honest with you, I don't even know in hindsight if it was hormone imbalance or if I was burnt out. Because stress, as I now know, is a key player in how our hormones function. And I'm just going to confess, I was burnt out. I mean, I was 41, an entrepreneur, 2 small kids, aging mother with dementia, getting up at 3 a.m. thinking that I was gifted.
Yeah.
Like, I was thinking, oh, how lucky am I? I get to work for 3 or 4 hours before my kids wake up. And that's fine when you've got like a big project coming up, but that's not a way to live like 7 or 8 or 10 years of your life, right?
No,
so,
and you were in marketing advertising too. That's not an easy.
No, I mean, it was demanding. It was like any woman right now, I think, in this age category, very demanding.
Yeah.
And we don't understand the impact that stress is having on our quality of life. So I wanted to blame something. So I wanted to blame perimenopause, but I ended up learning a lot about stress and burnout and adrenal health and eat, move, sleep, supplements, like what are all the things on the menu that I really need to do for myself.
Yeah, I was reading the word, I was spelling out the word, because as I was preparing for this, and if you spell out the word menopause, it's me, no pause. And that's what women do. We just don't stop, we go. And no matter what we're feeling, no matter what we're going through, we just kind of barrel through. And the fact that you kind of took the moments to stop and sort of try to figure it out. But what really fascinates me is you, actually, Shirley, because you took these thoughts and you turned it into a menopause revolution. Like, how did you go? Like, how did you transform your idea into all of this?
Well, I don't think that it was any great magic on my part, other than I identified a glaring gap in women's health and education and information. Yeah. So we all, we're smart, we're savvy, we can figure anything out. You're probably watching this on YouTube right now. Like, just type in how to and you'll get the answer to anything. But the truth is that there is still, in 2020, 2021, a glaring gap in quality women's health education and information.
Yes.
And so I think I hit that nail on the head. I think I'm probably the only one that does this work in Canada. I'm one of a handful who do it around the world, and we all know each other. Like, we're advocates for women. So we all get together and share information, support each other on Instagram, you know.
That's cool in itself.
Yeah. And so as far as, you know, getting the media responding, like I always say, the universe was very kind to me when I started out, because I didn't know this was going to be my full-time gig. Like I was going to start a blog and that was going to solve.
How did that happen? How did it happen?
Yeah. So I started a blog thinking that was going to be my gift to the world and that I would go back to my regular scheduled programming. And a few things happened. I got recognized as one of the top menopause blogs by Dr. Oz. And I was like, well, there can't be very many if mine's the best. Like I had just started. And then right after that, Oprah launched the Oprah Winfrey Network in Canada. And I was invited to tweet for her for the entire weekend. So that was really, really cool for me. And then it just, you know, I always wanted to do a TED Talk. And so I set myself up to do that. And then right at that moment, like I was about 6 months away from turning 50. And I had to make a decision. If I was going to do this full time, it had to be like right now. So I'll be 54 in a few months. So, you know, I've been working at it part-time for 8 years and full-time for 4.
Oh my goodness. And since you've gone full time, you have come out with, you know, thing after thing. One is, I had never heard of I'm jumping around on my notes because I'm too excited to talk. So one, and I had never heard of even the idea of putting a vagina cream on down there, like never even heard of it. And I mean, I understand a little bit on hyaluronic acid because I've, you know, dealt with skin and stuff.
Of course.
But I'm like, ding, ding, ding. Like, you know, can you tell us about, we've got like 4 things to talk about. Let's start with the cream because I think it's amazing.
Sure. Happy to. So I had no idea that I was going to grow up and be a menopause chick. And I had no idea that I was going to grow up and be talking about vaginal moisturizer as much as I do. But you go where your audience takes you. And I, as you mentioned, I host a private online community on Facebook. It has 26,000 members and growing. And last year, a little over a year ago, the number of women that were talking about vaginal dryness was through the roof. And vaginal dryness is very, very common in postmenopause because we should probably do some definitions too. So menopause is 1 day. It's the 12-month anniversary of your final period. And perimenopause are those years, different for everyone, but let's say 5 to 15 years leading up to that day. So the average age of menopause is 51.2. You might start perimenopause in your 30s and not even know it. Mid to late 30s, early 40s, really, really common. So after a woman reaches menopause, that's 12 months without a period, her estrogen goes for a deep decline. And estrogen is the hormone that's responsible for keeping everything juicy. So it's responsible for keeping our eyes moist, our mouth, our joints, and our vaginas. And vaginal dryness, I mean, it immediately conjures up a conversation usually around comfortable sex. And it is about having comfortable sex, but it's also about women being able to sit comfortably, move comfortably, dance, go to yoga, ride a bicycle. And it's really, really important in playing a role in preventing UTIs, urinary tract infections, and preventing incontinence. So I like to say it's about sex, but it's not just about sex.
Wow.
The other thing that's really important, depending on how old you are when you're listening to this, is that vaginal dryness is not solely a menopause thing. It's really, really common for anyone who's on the birth control pill.
Oh, really?
Which, right? So ironic. So we put, you know, our girls on the birth control pill so that they can have sex safely, and then they suffer from vaginal dryness. I mean, that's a whole other show. But, and the other really, really common reason for vaginal dryness is overuse of wearing panty liners. Think about the absorbency in the pads that we wear, and some women will wear them daily. It's actually drawing the moisture out of your skin in your vulva and your vagina.
Like a sponge.
So not good for you.
No. Woo.
And then you mentioned hyaluronic acid. So hyaluronic acid is a really popular ingredient in lots of beauty and skincare products.
Yeah.
And vaginas and vulvas are skin.
Yes.
So in addition to losing estrogen around age 51, we also start to lose hyaluronic acid around age 30 to 40. And so about 5 to 10% per decade. Yeah. Hyaluronic acid is something our bodies produce naturally up until 40, and then after 51, it also goes for a deep decline. So hyaluronic acid is like one of the strongest molecules. It can carry 1,000 times its weight in water. So back to the vaginal dryness in our community, they were asking for more solutions because less than 4% of women who suffer from vaginal dryness are receiving any treatment.
Yeah, I've never even heard of a treatment. So
and that was really, really concerning. So there's lots of things that you can do if you're wanting to prevent vaginal dryness, which was me. I never wanted to have to deal with it. I thought reversing it would be too much work, but you can reverse it. You can treat it. You can have lots of sex. That sends lots of energy to the pelvic area.
Good
and
times.
Produce moisture naturally.
Yeah.
Orgasms, really important. Regular pelvic floor exercise, really important. You can moisturize with a vaginal moisturizer with hyaluronic acid in it. You can also go to your doctor and get localized estrogen cream. So that would be estrogen that you apply directly to your vagina, but you do need a prescription for that. Okay. And if it's never too late, I just want you to know it's never too late. There are also laser therapies that are effective too. And this is so important because, like I said, it's about sex, but it's also about making sure that you can continue to move comfortably for the next 4 decades.
Right. And I just want to do a shout out because I was doing this research. I read about the cream. I read the reviews on the cream, and then I'm like, add to cart, like immediately. The reviews are insane. I've never seen reviews like this before on anything. Usually, it's 4.5. It's like 5 stars. It was unbelievable. And these are all real women, right? That are chiming in and putting their 2 cents into what this cream does for them.
Thank you for noticing the reviews because they make me cry usually about once or twice a week. You mentioned I worked in marketing, and every time, so if you go to moisturizeyourvagina.com and you click on reviews, you'll see what we're chatting about right now. But I read them and I think, do you remember late night television infomercials where they'd be shouting things like works in 3 days or whatever? And I really hesitate to approve those reviews because I think, who's going to believe this?
Yeah.
But the reality is, like, when we launched the product, we tested it in the fall of 2019. And I thought 3 months, 3 weeks, I didn't know what to expect when women came back with their feedback. And some of them were coming back and they're saying things like, worked in 3 days, I noticed a difference within 3 days, or my husband and I haven't had sex for 9 years. Aww. And now, we just had sex last night for the first time. And I'm thinking, 9 years, like,
just a long time.
Wow. Yeah. So that's what brings tears to my eyes because, and I can tell you one more short little story. I had I interviewed a naturopath, and I didn't even know the level that women were suffering. Her patient came in to see her and said, it was the beginning of the summer. I'm so glad I can wear sundresses now. And her doctor's like, what? She goes, I can't wear jeans anymore. I can't even wear my Lululemon pants. It's so uncomfortable. I can only wear sundresses.
Wow. So, I mean, this can be life-changing. Just the cream. The cream. I'm telling you, I don't even know. I mean, I know I'm dry. Okay, so when I was in my early 40s, I had a partial hysterectomy where Yeah, because I had all of those terrible, like really bad PMDD, really bad menstruals, all of that, migraines, like it was brutal. And nobody talked to me about perimenopause or anything. I went for the surgery and I suffered a year and a half with angioedema after the surgery because it was just such a shock to my body that it went into. It was such a loss of life. Like I lost a couple of years in there. And if I would have known any of this back then, I could have maybe taken another approach. But, of course, doing that, everything's going to start to like shrivel. And when you get a comment from your fella that, do you have some like coconut oil or whatever just to get you through, it's, I just really like to experience, intimacy without having to grab a jar of coconut oil every single time. I want to see if I can make an improvement there. I mean, it just gets a little frustrating. Yeah.
Yeah. So lubricants are recommended. So coconut oil is a common choice, but I will tell you, it's never been tested. So we don't actually know how the body gets rid of the coconut oil or any other oil you might be using. So I do recommend that you moisturize, and that's like a regular routine that you would do in the morning or at night or whatever works for you away from sex.
Yeah.
And then for sex, sexual activity or pleasure or fun, use a lubricant. Just make sure you're choosing one that's not going to change the pH of the vagina. And nobody teaches this. Like
Nobody's
shocked to learn this. I was also shocked to learn that some of the biggest brands with the biggest budgets are the worst culprits. And I won't name any, but I'll tell you, don't choose a warming lubricant or anything that like has that tingly thing.
Be super careful,
because that's going to change the pH of your vagina, and then you're going to be dealing with all sorts of things.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure if we went in the community, we could exchange stories, couldn't we? And tell stories of what, because I mean, when you're talking with a group of women that's 26,000 plus women, I'm sure all kinds of, questions and thoughts and stuff. I've been inviting my friends like crazy.
Thank you.
To the group. Okay. So I just wanted to make sure I'm covering now. Going into the book, can we just talk about the book a little more in depth for a second? And I didn't get all the way through it, but I'm a good chunk into it. I could not put it down. It's so well written. It's riveting because you're learning constantly in there, and just the amazing amount of people that you pulled together for this. That must have just been a feat in itself. Can you tell me a little bit about that journey?
Sure. So the book is basically in two parts. The first part is my story and my narrative around the research that I've done and what I've learned and how I really want to set the record straight, clear up all the confusing and conflicting information. And there is a lot, but I try to do that in a concise way. I also personally love books that you can pick up, flip open to any page and learn something, because I have a short attention span. So that was the first goal. The second goal is I have 13 co-authors, and I wanted women to know how to build their own midlife team, health team. And it takes a lot of time and a lot of money to shop around for who is going to help you. If you think about taking time off work, driving downtown, parking, whatever it is that you have to do to like, my friend Susan went to this doctor, and so you want to do that. So I thought, why don't I invite 13 health professionals to each write a chapter? They describe what it is that they do, and they included a case study. So we have a physician, a pharmacist, a naturopathic doctor, acupuncturist. We have a pelvic floor expert with 13 professionals who've said, this is how I support women in midlife. And then they include a case study, which you can read. And a lot of women will tell me that they learn so much by hearing other women's journeys. So for example, you mentioned hot flashes. Let's take the acupuncturist, for example. She describes how she works with women to treat their hot flashes by using acupuncture. And you might go, oh, you know what? That's not for me. That's not what, and then you'd flip to the registered dietitian and learn about how eating and and making sure that we're nutritionally supported in this phase of life. And you're like, oh, you know what? I bet if I could just, work with a registered dietitian, that would support me. So you just get to pick and choose the health team that's going to be right for you.
And I love how you describe this as a Rubik's Cube, where you're trying to get one side at a time. I'm like, that's such a good analogy. So you better explain it better than me.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it really resonated for me, and that's why I wrote about it. Our traditional medical system has been built on a magic wand scenario. We have an issue, we go to our doctor, we walk out with the magic wand solution. Take this for that. And if you have another, God forbid, if you have 2 issues, you have to come back next week to talk about the second.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
Yeah.
Again, no one's fault. That's a systemic problem.
Yeah.
For women balancing their hormones, our hormones, they perform thousands of important jobs in our body. I described what estrogen does, like that one role for estrogen is to keep everything juicy. There's hundreds more. When you are a woman in midlife who's in, let's say, perimenopause, you might be experiencing changes to your mood. You might be noticing changes to bleeding. You might have some different sleep habits. You can't quite walk out of your doctor's appointment with that one magic wand and say, oh, this is going to fix it. So I liken it to a Rubik's Cube. And often the pieces of a Rubik's Cube, you can move them around and really get the one red side. So that might be sleep. It might be like 3 things that you could do today to really focus in on your sleep. And maybe that's all you need. Maybe when your sleep gets better, your mood gets better. Right? That could be it. Or you might be someone who requires a bit more support than that. And that might be, going to talk to your integrative pharmacist about supplementing with iron or magnesium or whatever it is that, vitamin D, really, really important. Things that you need right now. And if that's not right, then maybe you want to talk to a hormone balance expert who can help you support your hormones for where you are right now in your life.
I mean, there's something really for every, type. There's different personality types and different people like to go to different things. What I really love and what I really love about your website is basically you can click on any type of specialist and find, someone that might be able to help you, whether it's an acupuncturist or whether it's, you have so many. I don't know how you put this all together, even if you have been in this 10 years. I mean, that looks like it would just take like a major team of people. You are wildly superhuman. I'm sorry, Shirley, you are. Okay, so I just want to talk briefly about the 2002 report that everybody talks about with the hormones and things like that, and what we really can enlighten maybe some of the viewers on what it's like now and the differences. And because I know a lot of women, if you mention it, if in any of the menopause Facebook groups about hormones, you get some people chattering about that. So it's important to maybe talk about it and see if we can't, dispel some myths and things like that.
Sure. I'm happy to. So first of all, I will always tell you my story. I will never tell you what to do, but I invite every woman to get informed and choose the journey that's right for you.
Right.
Secondly, I would say that the concept, the science of hormone therapy has probably been the worst communications example in women's health, if not in all health. We are still suffering from myths and misconceptions as they pertain to the concept of hormone therapy. And this is like 2002. So we're talking 20, 30 years ago, right?
Right.
It's crazy. Okay, so hormone therapy is the concept of supplementing or balancing your hormones to restore a woman's quality of life. In perimenopause, our hormones are constantly fluctuating from year to year, month to month, week to week, morning to night. They're different.
Yeah.
In menopause, after you've gone 12 months without a period, that's when the estrogen declines. So some of the language over the years, led us to believe that menopause was all about hormone decline. The next point that I would like to emphasize is that hormones are natural. Our bodies produce them, our brains, our bones, our bodies, we rely on hormones, particularly females. The men have hormones too, but they don't fluctuate in the same way that a woman's does. So whether this concept of hormones being natural or unnatural, that needs to be eradicated. And then you mentioned 2002. So the Women's Health Initiative, also known as the WHI, was a study that was halted in 2002 because the women that were involved in the study were showing increasing signs of heart, stroke, and breast cancer. So that made headline news. Right. All the headlines in the newspapers printed that hormone therapy caused breast cancer. Doctors stopped prescribing. Women stopped taking it. They flushed them down the toilet and then showed up in their physician's office a month or two later complaining of horrible mood swings, hot flashes, sleep deprivation, you name it, and many of them were then prescribed antidepressants. So that's why we have a very high incidence of women taking antidepressants, but that's a personal choice. But what happened in this study that went so terribly wrong is that they wanted to study thousands of women starting at age 40 and following them for 30 years. That would have been the ultimate research study. They couldn't recruit. You can imagine who would sign up for a study like that was going to last 30 years. So I forget the exact number, they had a significantly smaller sample size. And the women in this study were older. The average age was low 60s. So guess what? Women in their low 60s already have a higher incidence of heart disease, stroke, and breast cancer.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know any of this, Shirley.
The percentages were representative of the population that they were testing. It had nothing to do with women who are in perimenopause, navigating perimenopause to menopause. It was so misaligned from recruitment through to how they communicated it to the media. And we are still living with the ramifications of that.
Yes.
Now I will fast forward to some good news.
Okay.
And this doesn't make the headlines, unfortunately. But in 2017, so right before my book came out, the North American Menopause Society, NAMS, came out with their positioning statement on hormone therapy, which said hormone therapy is safe to take when an individual risk assessment has been conducted. So it's not a one size fits all. If you already have cancer, your doctor might not want to prescribe something that might contribute to that, or, but that's an individual. For the most part, hormone therapy is safe when an individual risk assessment has been conducted and when a woman starts her therapy within 10 years of menopause or under the age of 60, which is all of us who are trying to figure out these changes.
Yeah. So a big difference from the previous. And so yes, just, for anybody out there afraid, I think too, the types of hormones, like the one that I got when I got my progesterone from my naturopath, it's one that you kind of rub on your forearms, and it was made from vegetable, and it was just bioidentical, I think is the word, right? And you rub it on. Now, I didn't say this, but I have bipolar disorder. And so I'm like so excited because of the sleep factor. I have really difficult time with my sleep. And, she was going to do all these tests on my progesterone. She goes, I already know you're low. So we're just going to prescribe. So then I got it and I started taking it, and like I had a full night sleeping full through the night. I was like, what is happening after all these years? I just couldn't believe it. Now with my bipolar, anything new in my system can trigger mania. And because even additional sleep can, so it could be something good even that can trigger. So I went into mania. So she has to change the dosage. That's all, not stop it, but just alter the dosage slightly. So that's why it's kind of good to go through somebody, but it's magical for what it did for me for sleep. Like literally, I'm on 5 or 6 sleep herbs to try to get me down. It's really tough. So, I mean, those are things that we just don't talk or think about. We just think we're just stuck in these situations. So I reflected that information to a friend in Phoenix. She ran out and got her progesterone cream. Now she can sleep with her new boyfriend beside him without pouring sweat all night and get a good night's sleep. So I mean, it's worth exploration. Don't just suffer. And I love how you say improve the quality of your life. You only get one from what we know. You know, you should just go for it and be your own advocate and try your hardest to figure out what's going to work best for you. You're worth it.
You're totally worth it. And it's so fascinating how, we know a little bit about how our body works, but anybody, if we were to walk out on the street right now and put a microphone in their face and ask them, what's the role of your spleen or your liver? Like they may or may not be able to tell us. And then you go one step further and like, what's the role of progesterone? The role of progesterone, it's a calming hormone. It keeps us calm, and it is so important for brain health and for sleep.
Yeah.
Why would we rob women of brain health and sleep? It just doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
A universally understood concept.
Yeah. Now there's one more big topic I want to try to tackle. And that's and this is another thing I knew nothing about. I'm like totally fascinated. The whole pelvic floor discussion. Like, can you fill me in or fill us all in on why is that important, what it is? And I watched your courageous video, because you have your own YouTube channel, on getting your own exam done. I'm like, you really are putting yourself on a limb for us women out there, showing us your own pelvic exam. Well, I mean, we didn't see anything, but we kind of understood.
Heard the conversation.
Yeah. And it made me fascinated. And then I'm trying to practice a Kegel. I'm like, I'm really not so good at this. So please explain more, because I'm really new to the whole thing.
Sure. So some of the reasons why you would the reason why you would want to see a pelvic floor physiotherapist is if you have a vagina. And if you don't have a vagina, you should also see a pelvic floor physiotherapist, because men have pelvic health issues as well.
Oh.
So organ prolapse is quite common. It can be the result of giving birth, but it is not exclusively, because for women who have given birth, it could be loss of hormones as well. And that, prolapse could be a bladder prolapse. It could be a uterine prolapse. It could be a rectal prolapse. So we have so many important organs in our pelvis region that rely on one another. And when they're not functioning, when they're not functioning properly, it affects our quality of life. Incontinence is another reason. So I don't know if you have any girlfriends, but who say, oh, I have a small bladder. Well, do you? Or is your bladder not functioning optimally?
Right.
And do you leak when you cough, sneeze, or laugh, or go for a run, or, when you're out when we used to go to the mall, when you were out at the mall or coffee shop, are you always looking for where the nearest washroom is?
You've met me.
That's a sign that you can, that something's not working optimally, and you can work with a pelvic floor physiotherapist to reverse that.
Who knows?
Right? Or to prevent it. I mean, I think that pelvic floor physio should be like going to the dentist. We don't wait until we have a cavity. We go to the dentist twice a year, like clockwork.
So you're saying, like, with if you feel like you've got to pee all the time, is that something that you'd see pelvic?
Oh, absolutely.
I didn't know.
Anything. Yeah. Okay. So painless sex, vaginal dryness, prolapse, back pain. Do you know how
What?
much undiagnosed back pain women put up with and suffer through that
Yeah.
could be related to pelvic health? Yeah. So, and these amazing practitioners called pelvic health physiotherapists, they're physiotherapists who have taken additional training. They are licensed to provide internal exams,
Mm-hmm.
which I had and I put on my YouTube channel. But the internal exam part is only a small component of
Mm-hmm.
working with a pelvic floor physio. I have to tell you, the education and information and exercises that I walked away with, that
Yeah.
was the golden part of working with a pelvic floor physio.
And to find one, do they go to your website? How do they find a pelvic?
Yeah, so you can ask at any local physiotherapist office. If they don't have one on staff, they'll likely know someone in your community.
Yeah.
Or you can, there's a number of websites that we could put in your show notes if you want on how to find one in your area. But they
Mm.
fortunately are becoming more and more common. And, I know a lot of women who are seeing them before they give birth and after they give birth. I didn't even know what a pelvic floor physiotherapist was when I had my kids, but I'm grateful that I know so many of these professionals now because they've
Yeah.
taught me a ton. And
Wow.
and it goes back to what I was saying earlier about we're not meant to suffer.
Mhm.
And you might think, oh, maybe I'm the only one. Maybe I'm the only one that can't jog, right? I see
Yeah.
other women jogging. Why can't I jog when I pee a little? Or maybe I'm the only one with vaginal dryness and I don't really want to say anything. I am here to tell you, you are not the only one and you are not meant to suffer.
Oh, I mean, that's why, I mean, I think everybody who's a woman should just go and sign up to Menopause Chicks, because you will see it's a unique kind of Facebook kind of group where you can feel okay to talk about these things, where, even my closest girlfriends felt shy to tell me some things when when we were talking about it. I'm like, you really feel like you're alone, but you're so not alone. And you have also, I just want to say, you have things going on in there that are super fun. I signed up for something tomorrow. You've got something going on tomorrow, and that looks so cool. Can you tell me what that is? Maybe if they go sign up today, if I can get this up by tonight, they can partake.
Thank you so much for mentioning that. We are doing something very fun and inspirational tomorrow night. It's our annual holiday party. I do a lot of online work, and a lot of it is kind of around the educational component. We're
Mm-hmm.
going to park that a little bit tomorrow night because I've invited Amy Pence Brown, who is a radical self-love advocate. And
Ooh.
she has this amazing story for where she stripped off her clothes and stood in an open air market and with a blindfold on and a bikini. And she invited the public to draw hearts on her body as an act of radical self-love. And so we're going to hear her story. She's a member of our community. I can't wait to introduce you to her. And it's pay what you want. It's by donation, but for everybody who comes, we've got amazing educational gifts. So if this just happens to be when you're starting your learning about what perimenopause is, then you can get a copy of my book. You can get a copy of our top 3 events that we hosted in 2020, and then you'll be off to the races.
So cool. I mean, I love the idea of body positive stuff, because oh, do we beat ourselves up? Oh my gosh, like it is insane. And we need to feel fabulous right now. I mean,
You.
this is when we're feeling more wise, when we got our stuff somewhat together. Isn't there a statistic out there that we're kind of like the majority right now in our age category? We're kind of ruling the world, but we don't know it.
Well, I say that we are ruling the world. I say that midlife women are holding up our world right now.
Yes.
And that I say with all the confidence in the world, because you look anywhere, it's midlife women who are taking care of children and the
Yeah.
family. They're looking after aging parents. They're in charge at work. They're running corporations and they're running marathons. I mean, we really need to focus on the health of women in midlife. And the reason that we need to do that, and the reason I'm so passionate about it, is because we are the first generation of women to turn 50 and have 50 more years to plan for.
Whew.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But if today you were to go into any retirement community or seniors home, you would see predominantly women, but you would see a large majority of women suffering from osteoporosis, dementia, and incontinence.
Oh.
And so what we do now in our 50s or 40s or however old you are when you're listening to this, it's an investment.
Yes.
You're investing in the quality of life that you're going to have in your 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and beyond. Because I believe what we do now will definitely play a role in our quality of life down the road.
Yeah, I have never taken that good of care of myself until I started getting close to that number 50. From 49 to 50, I went hog wild, and I'm like, okay, I'm going for it. I'm going to think of everything I want out of this life, because you start to realize, you're not here forever, but everything is hurting, everything's problems, and I want to feel better. I don't want to feel like this in, getting older. And it's terrifying to think that you're just going to be all feeling yucky in an old age home with nobody to come visit you. That's horrifying. I want to feel good. And we should also be binding together as in a sisterhood and help each other the way that you're doing. And well, this is just, I hope people are running over there right now, signing up, getting a decision in their head that they're going to put themselves first, because when you do, you can help other people a lot better.
Yeah, for sure.
I just want to make sure that you guys go to the description box. Everything will be there. And I can't believe you're offering the book too tomorrow. So I'm about that. So let me just thank you so much. Am I missing anything that did I catch everything? I'm trying to get to everything, but I'm just so excited to know you, to get to meet you.
Yeah, it's really nice to be invited to your community as well. I mean, I would say that take one step at a time.
Okay.
It can be fairly overwhelming to try to learn about everything in one small hour, or if there's any marketers who are trying to convince you that there's one magic thing inside a bottle for you, don't believe it. It's very complex. This is about really putting, as you said, putting your own name at the top of your to-do list, and then creating a customized journey that's right for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And the minute you get on that path where you make that decision, you're already going to feel better. And buy yourself the doggone cream for Christmas. That's what I bought myself for Christmas, is some vagina cream. So what? So I deserve it, right? So thank you so much, Shirley Weir.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so proud to have you here, and I'm blessed to have had this experience. So thanks again. And we're going to talk again soon, I'm sure.
That sounds fantastic. Thank you so much.
Okay, ciao, bye. Have a good one.